Danny, get in the chopper!
A digital psychedelic revolution of the mind.
Paleolithic emotions.
Medieval institution. Godlike technology.
It's time to start thinking globally.
And acting locally.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth!
Blessed by the name of Benjamin, this is Ben.
And Ben.
Riding the AI wave.
Yeah, there we are. There's our levels over there. And this will tell us what we sound like through these receptive ways. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. That's fun.
Does my voice sound better this time?
Oh, it does. It's incredible. I feel mine is in this like area voice of the whole room. And then another Ben is very there, directly there in your ear with you.
I've been doing a little experimentations with this one, and you can get so close to it, you can just whisper. It still works.
That sounds delicious. Almost as delicious as this matcha tea.
Oh, you like it?
I do love a good matcha. Let's go.
Yeah, it's...
I love the iridescent rainbows in those bubbles on top.
You know what that means? It means
There's soap.
someone else uses. So we just clean that.
Right.
Can you, yeah.
Let's.
So if this doesn't go well, we'll just cut it. Delete parts
I'm so.
that we don't want.
There's always editing, and the magic of the creation, and I think where we're heading in a lot of technology is the ability to take from all that is created in the real-time physical, and then coalesce it and bring that together and create some really amazing compilations, and bringing that work together and the creations made from that raw data. Have you seen examples of that already, Ben?
Well, I know our friend Aaron wants to collect as much data as he wants on himself digitally, just feed that into an AI algorithm.
For what purpose?
I think he wants to extend himself, and I don't know that he knows what purpose, but I can imply I think he wants to live beyond death.
So that his thinking, his consciousness, who he is and what he's doing in this world will continue on.
And I'm not that self-important where I'm going to record everything. I know what I do is not that important. I'm not going to record. But I think there are some moments and thoughts that I have on certain things that I want to record. I don't want to record everything, but I think it'd be cool. But yeah.
I know we talked a little about that example of the man who recorded 365 days of his life, every minute, every hour, in 360-degree footage, so that he can put on a pair of VR goggles and go back and relive, time machine back to any part of his life in that last year. Do you think we're looking at that kind of data capture, not just on an outside viewpoint, but also connected in with, say, your biometrics, your breathing, your, what is that, a cardiogram? No, that's your heart. What's a mind? The EKG.
Yeah.
And so checking out your brain patterns as well as your, biometrics and heartbeat and heart rate, all that kind. And putting that all together with that footage and pairing it with how you felt, what your body was doing in these circumstances. Oh, they're about to go up on stage. What's their heart rate doing now? What's their inner brain waves going now? Versus then they're in the flow state. They're up on stage. They're in that moment, in that flow, performing, accessing who they are and all the training that they've done on whatever they're doing to really rise to that occasion, and that full capture and understanding of who we are.
I think this can be viewed in like two ways: an artistic, an experiential way, and more of a scientific way of like, okay, what is happening to yourself on a biometric level when you're in flow? What's your heart rate? You think about what's happening to your brain waves. What is that? And maybe we've done a lot of that exploring, but now it's time for the experiential part of it, where you're like wiring in to some other experience. But I think the main killer app behind that could be, it could be just like changing your consciousness level, which is what a lot of technologies do, and a lot of substances do.
I was gonna say, changing your consciousness level. I would say you just hit on one of the most important piece that we can look at for every day. What is driving each of our actions, each of our ambitions, each of our endeavors? Are you from when you wake up in the morning? Are you thinking about that coffee? Are you thinking about that cell phone? Do you need to see if something was liked? Do you need to see if...
It's a bad habit.
I mean, those, right? That dopamine, the serotonin, the dopamine, these chemicals that are changing our state of consciousness. Right. When we drink the coffee, now what is our state of consciousness? What is our vibration? When we go into meditation, what is our consciousness? What is our vibration? Go into breath work. Go into, and then maybe...
Yes, please.
Yeah.
You know what I like? It's the tactile feedback of Mike as you breathe, because I don't have the nostrils you do or that Aaron does. So I'm like, okay, I can hear them if I breathe in.
How fascinating.
They're still there.
You still got those nostrils, and they sure are breathing in. Filtering the air. Did you hear the benefits of breathing in through the nose versus breathing in through the mouth?
Certainly heard it the other night. Yeah, but when you were doing it, like, we taking off. I think that's what you said.
We're taking off.
We about to take off.
Oh man! And did you take off?
Yeah, I did. I don't think I took off as much as some.
I mean, I witnessed some individuals taking off and profoundly altering a state of consciousness. I witnessed changes, right, in states, and these simple actions of just breathing. But how you breathe, it's not always what you're doing, but it's how you do it. Mm-hmm. And I think that can be taken for the coffee, the caffeine in all its forms, the marijuana, the mushrooms, the LSD, the pharmaceuticals, the great long list of pharmaceuticals that are pumped into our consciousness to, hey, just subscribe to this and it'll be okay, and I'll give you exactly what you need to feel better. At what price?
I think a cup of coffee is like a good way to measure things. We have a lot. I think that was at least 2 or 3 cups of coffee, just breathing. Felt like it was a shot. And I was just high energy after that.
I was up all night. I mean, we were up until 3 in the morning talking that night.
Yeah. What was that? It's just like, wow. That was... Did we take ecstasy or something? Nobody spiked ecstasy. I've never taken ecstasy.
Nor I, actually. I haven't experienced that. But I have experienced some really intentional breath work, and I imagine inside myself that it's touching into those similar places. That there's a similar place in my brain, that pineal gland. Everybody keeps on talking, pineal gland, the pine, right?
Yeah.
I just saw the pine cone on the Vatican. The Pope. The Pope has a staff. And on that is the pine cone on that staff. It's like at the top of the staff, just like at the top of our spinal cord. We got that pineal gland and that place of Christ consciousness. Those 33 vertebrae, those 33 years, climb the ladder, the kundalini, the energy's rising, all of those physical juices, spinal fluid juices are rising through our spine to make its way to that pineal gland, that semi-calcified on a spectrum pineal gland, and just like flooding it with all these incredible natural mind and conscious altering states.
They knew back then. They knew about the pineal. Maybe they didn't articulate it the same way.
Or they didn't release those secrets to the masses. They kept it as a secret level of access to these higher these
Higher
ways,
states of consciousness.
Yeah.
And they encoded it in some way, in ceremony,
There we go.
through the church and, through the bishops and priests, whatnot.
The whole clergy.
You pass down the knowledge there.
Speaking of passing down the knowledge,
Yeah. Was there a jar on this table? For pens, I had like a jar of pens and pencils. Oh, there. Hidden right behind.
I think a lot of information has been passed down through music and storytelling for a long time. I mean, this is our oral tradition through indigenous tribes, through passing of civilizations. Civilizations can come and go, and yet we can still pass on these legends and stories of times ago.
Typically, I think Europe, once Europe had the printing press, it was game over for everyone else in terms of technology, but other cultures pass it down in many unique ways. Music, I think, pre-printing press. That's why music is so, mysterious. We don't know the way it affects us. But yeah.
That's interesting, the printing press. Gutenberg, what was that, 14, 13?
Yep.
Right in somewhere around there. Printing press comes out, and now there's this way to disseminate one common thought, one message to so many. Before it was person to person, mouth to ear, mouth to groups of people. The herald, the bard, the musician that comes around to sing the songs and tell you of the news. Then the printing press, well, what an astronomical game changer to disseminating information and ideas.
I just watching YouTube. I saw this video about how someone discovered reading silently. I guess when they first started writing stuff down, they didn't really know what reading was. And then I'd heard some YouTuber talking about the first record of somebody reading silently, as we call it. In other words, reading. But reading was a communal experience before some bishop or monk started reading silently, and the other monks were like, what is this guy doing just by himself? reading,
yeah, right.
Looking at this paper. And they would usually just read it to each other. And now, hundreds of years later, we all read like that. Because I guess it's one of the more effective ways to take in information.
Well, isn't that what AI is also doing right now? It's reading whole blog posts. It's reading whole manuscripts. And please summarize this in 5 key points. We've taken the whole thing, and it's what are the key 5 points I need to know about this? And you tell me what that is. Where's the importance? And how is it that there's that level of the AI is telling us what is the most important in those pieces. How does that come about?
Wow. I don't even think we know where we're going with AI and like how big of a change it's going to be. I think it's going to be so fast that it could potentially be rejected by everyone.
Because it's just too much. It's doing too much.
It's not going to be like some gradual change. But
Especially with any kind of, nations and governments pulling on technology advancements for the wars. For haven't we throughout all of history seen wars of one kind of another?
yeah.
Right? And so to think there's not some kind of battle or fight over something else on this planet, I think would be foolish. What that looks like and how that warfare is happening and how it's affecting and affecting on that global and country scale and humanity and society level.
It's going to be like, when the colonizers visited. Well, if you have AI, it's going to be like colonizers with gunpowder visiting, people that are just using bow and arrows and sticks and stones. If you have one person has like drones with AI targeting ability, or one person, even one side.
I mean,
It's just gonna be.
at that point, it's almost more like a biological attack, because it's like technology seeking biological traits.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. It's like, well, now you can selectively program, which you're going to target. Both on a technological, physical, just throw a drone with a little bit of C4 at them, or whether it's they go straight biological and genetic profiling. Now that we also have people's DNA, and here's the piece. The system is almost warning against putting your video and your likeness and your voice upon the access of the AI. For once you have, opens up then a door to be replicated. Do you want to be replicated? Do you want to be recreated under someone else's command and voice and vision that isn't you?
I'm talking Black Mirror now. Are you talking like a Black Mirror, digitally recreated, or what kind of recreated do you mean? Or have your whole psyche recreated, or your kids recreated? Next generation.
Because right now they're at the capability of what is it? The recreating Morgan Freeman's face and likeness, or Tom Cruise, or Arnold Schwarzenegger. And they say anything, they can look at whatever age, and they can say whatever you want them to say, because there is enough vocal and video footage to to replicate them saying and doing whatever you want.
So the cost to recreation is going down as the cost of information and processing power, compute as they call it, goes down. And so right now we're recreating Robert De Niro like he was in that movie. What was it? Quentin Tarantino movie. Yeah, exactly. No,
Quentin.
That was when he was actually young. It was the one. It was the most recent one. But anyway, yeah, they recreated like a young version, and then of Luke Skywalker,
right,
as well.
And then I thought it was interesting that the fans actually created a better version than the show did. Did you hear that?
No.
After that episode of The Mandalorian came out,
Wow.
where they CGI'd Luke Skywalker's face on him, then the fans took the same footage and rendered it looked even better, made it look even more realistic.
So the technology caught up so fast
Right.
that by the time they released it.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That's
Right?
so it's like Lenza. Like I think Lenza is another reincarnation of that, where like all it needs is like 5 pictures of you, I think, and it can recreate the artistic version of you. But for someone like Robert De Niro, who has a whole career of being filmed How easy would it be to recreate him? In that sense, visually, it would be good to have a lot of data points for that. And it doesn't really matter visually like what data points it is, as long as you're capturing decent quality of what it is. I feel like you're getting a whole sense of what the body is. So that's another way. It's like, are you recreating somebody digitally, or are you modeling someone's personality? And I think there are going to be different companies that specialize in those different things. Going to be like companies that specialize in facial recreation or bodily recreation, and then modeling their personality, modeling their voice as well.
For what end?
For what end?
For what purpose?
I think to put them in a simulation, and simulation perhaps or to put them in augmented reality. And this simulation, it could be for any kind of purpose, really. But you also, I was talking through some other scenarios. It could be for some manipulative purposes of simulating. So say if you modeled my personality and like you want to sell to me, you could have like 1,000 different kind of strategies and see which and try to interact with my personality if you model it accurately.
Sure.
And then you just pick the most successful strategy that happened with the modeling, and it's a good hypothesis that would actually work against me for selling something to me. So or is that like to your benefit? Are you getting the things that you really do want, or are people choosing what you want and then modeling you to want what they have? Ooh, yeah. I mean, yeah, I think it's more interesting to randomly stumble along things myself and not be kind of manipulated by technology.
We don't want to feel manipulated. Though, how about this? If there was a process where this AI or this program or this interface knew me so well that who I was, it would also know the things that I would want to do and experience and play with. Like, I have a lot of toys. I love like toys and fun things, and I experience the adventure and the fun of them, and I like sharing that with my friends. Just right there's like a whole slew of different things that I could be sold, and then in proximity, my friends that I come in contact, because I like playing with friends, it's group things, now they are also sold on those commonality, or at least guided to also be interested in playing the same things that I like.
So it's like, well, that's what happens now anyway, right? In terms of like your friends do that.
I was thinking for Robert De Niro. When we get to a place where, and we're already there, say...
I have a thought, though. I want to say... Yeah, go ahead about Robert De Niro. Go.
All right, Robert De Niro is your taxi driver. In VR, you completely see Robert De Niro without VR or AR, because it would be augmented reality, somewhere in between there.
Oh, nice.
It would be... one of the Tesla robots.
You have a robo
that stands in as the shell for your AR VR personality. So now Robert De Niro can be your personal chauffeur. He can then not only like a voice bot in Siri, it's a physical bot like in your home. Now we're talking iRobot with like the machines, but your experience in reality is experiencing that other being, whoever and whatever you want that to be.
And you're calling him a shell. So yeah, you could choose whatever you want. You could choose Robert De Niro or anybody in the world to be your taxi driver. Have Audrey Hepburn be your taxi driver.
Any kind of avatar. You can just have it a squishy marshmallow. You know, you can have it, you can draw an abstract object and that be rendered into an avatar that goes over, and that's what you experience. Or I want to hang out with Audrey Hepburn for a while. Oh, but it's not the real Audrey Hepburn. It's the Audrey Hepburn that is based off of all of her different characters that she's played.
Wow. And then you could probably stylize the taxi to be like to fit the era as well.
Sure.
Hey, as long as we're inserting virtual things into the environment.
Ooh, there we go. Right? Pick a genre. People around you, you can just have everybody say, at the end of or at the beginning of whatever they say, just say, Governor, top of the morning.
Yeah.
Just like a translation app of, hey Ben, how are you? You could have that for you sound like, Governor, top of the morning. Good day.
Yeah, I think then you're talking about like a whole culture that doesn't really have its own culture, which is like kind of similar to what we are right now, where we just have like an amalgamation of cultures and a mix of everything, and we just choose which one we like. But I guess, do we have an overarching culture in our society today? And that'll even become more disseminated, is that we'll just live within our own AI filter, or augmented reality filter.
Which I think brings us back to that key component of what I believe a lot of technology is recreating our own inherent gifts. For each of us have the inherent gift to attract in and raise to whatever vibration and call in all those aspects that we want in our life. And you can use and utilize your own powers of creativity and manifestation within your infinite and divine self. And you can move forward through life calling in these aspects that you truly want and live in that world. Like that is that world that you're dreaming up, and that so many will be giving their power over to these other companies and realities and ways of living their life in exchange for their own power and ability to do so.
I think there's a fundamental thing that it's taking away from us, and you hit on it, in that it's recreating, it's taking away the creating part from us. We don't get to do any creating, like as if you are an artist, or if you're a coder, you get no joy. Or even like if you make surfboards like a lot of people do here, it's like, what if AI made a perfect surfboard? If a machine made the perfect surfboard every time, what joy can you have in that process? And I think, that's what we're missing in AI, it's a shame.
Missing that creative element of still imbuing, allowing the human interface to create and co-create. So wouldn't that be like ChatGPT? I mean, it's kind of this co-creation of your voice and its response, and this kind of collaborative to get to an answer. So are we looking for, instead of like an answer based or a description, is it an experience based? Are we led down an experience?
I think younger generations will think it's a co-creation. They're going to lean towards that and be like, oh yeah, look at this. But older generations, if you're say 45, 50 or more, or whatever, we don't have to put a number on it, but they're going to think of it as replacement. And what do I do now, as a panic thing, because their neurons are more hardwired.
And you're moving from one system to another.
And they have a lot invested in what they've already done, and they're like, oh, well, AI can do this very easily. That's why it's kind of the beauty of having to relearn things and view it in a different way, because I think we'll have to view it, like as you said, as a co-creation if we want to continue to do that. But our brains are going to shrink. Our brains are already
shrinking? No, I thought they were expanding.
No, they're not.
The physical brain, not a thing. But the neural connections and the pathways that we can create and stimulate to achieve levels of living and experience that is so full and thriving, that we are provided on all levels, that connection with self and friends and family and lover and co-creative endeavors and collaborative unions.
I think that's a positive way to go. I think that's really the best way to think about things. But as it solves all the problems, do you think there's any benefits to having a problem?
Oh, of course. I mean,
'Cause it's-
dangerously saying yes.
Because it evokes so many good things within us, because then we have to figure out how to get past it, and then
Right. And without the problem, we wouldn't know in ourself that we're able to know our own greatness, our own ability to overcome said problem or challenge.
yeah, it's men have to rise to the occasion of the time. Men have to rise to meet the problem at hand.
Do women not? Just
Well, generally speaking. Generally, I was thinking like the men bring hard times, and then like easy times bring.
easy men. or
Yeah.
Soft
That
soft
one.
times create soft men. Soft men create hard times. Hard
That
times
whole-
create hard men.
What's the name of that again? But do you remember? Yeah,
But yeah, that one.
that one. Like, if everything is solved for us, we're just gonna be.
So complacent, but maybe freed up. Freed up then to experience what?
I think that's the big question mark. What are we gonna experience?
Or in what ways can we still be faced with challenges and problems? In what ways do we still experience our challenge
Yeah.
and those lessons, those opportunities for growth?
Games. How about games?
Games? Yeah. I mean, I learn a lot through games. I love games, especially, I want to shout out to Fallout, Bethesda and Fallout series. I've taken a certain liking to the kind of the role playing, that overview or first person of this adventure, and meeting friends and adding to your ability to go through and building things up, and critical thinking and the dialogue. I'm really interested. I've always loved choose your own adventure books. I grew up with some choose your own adventure books, and I would go through and I would read one path, and then I would go back and I would read the other path. And I was like, life is full of these fork in the road decisions. And what is my life if I go down this path versus if I go down this path?
Yeah, it's like what? Yeah, but that's a simulated life. It's not real problems.
But every day we're
It is.
faced with opportunities. Oh, you can go this way or this way, and how are you going to live your
Right.
life? Because in this moment, in each moment that we are so present and alive, we are going down one constant stream and path.
Yeah, I guess we'll create problems. If we're humanity, that's what we're known for, I guess, is to create problems. So I'm sure we'll have them. But I shouldn't be concerned about that.
I mean, I guess it's just a playground for creating solutions then. For every problem, there is a potential solution, I believe.
It's just the entities capable of solving the problems will be really narrowed down. It'll be like, yeah, if AI is that much smarter than us, I think it's concerning that it's like we're just gonna rely on it for everything, perhaps.
I think they've looked at some of this. Did you happen to watch Raised by Wolves?
No, Raised by Wolves.
Yeah, Raised by Wolves HBO series where there's two AI robots, mother and father, and they take a group of religious like children, to another planet and to colonize this planet, pursuant to the beliefs of who made and programmed that mother and father. And in it, we see that there's one faction who is governed and controlled and directed by an all-knowing and very powerful AI.
That is awesome. Man, I haven't heard of that. Is it any good? Would you recommend it?
It is. It's there's, what are they on, like season 4 or 5 or so. I always get a little bit something around what's his face from Vikings. He's great. He's wonderful.
Yeah.
He definitely has his type, and he's very burdened and troubled, and the inner conflict, and just very rapt, very rapt. But it plays. I think it plays, and it plays definitely in this character. It's well cast, and it definitely takes you there. And not only in a technological way, but then where is still your faith? Where's your belief in a world where technology is so rampant? Which also then maybe connects with also carbon. What is it? Carbon fiber, carbon. It's another. I think that one's over on Netflix or maybe Amazon.
Oh yeah, black carbon. No, that's
Carbon something. But it's wonderful in that way that now, yes, we've harnessed the ability to have our consciousness on this data package little sphere or seed, and you can just pop that into whatever physical body and form. Altered carbon.
Just as soon as I was about to pull it. I think for a podcast, you can talk about the ingredients of a podcast. What's your take on that? What's your take on, like, what do you really need? You need 2 microphones and some coffee or some matcha. We'll find out. Maybe I need a coffee.
I find something to sip on, a thirst for diving into a topic of interest or passion. I think a lot of times it's like, what is most important for you right now? What's the most important thing? Why should anyone listen to what you have to say right now? Does it have a relevance to someone's life, or are we just creating vocal patterns and topics for the AI to just listen to later on in a big compilation and let it all be figured out?
Do I have a message that I want to bring that's important? Not particularly. I just enjoy process, and I really like the phrase of like, I enjoy the process of like, maybe something I'll find out about something about myself through the process.
Here we go. Through the process.
As you write, there's the guy who said like, I don't write to express what I know. I write to find out what I know. Something like that. I forget who said that, but he writes it as a way to introspect. I think a podcast is a great way to introspect onto to who you are and put yourself in a, when you're doing yoga, you put yourself in a position, you're like, oh, I didn't know my body could do that or feel that way.
Breathe into that one. Breathe into it.
I just kind of like want to stretch myself in that sense.
Yeah.
As opposed to I really have some message I want to put out there.
Right.
I just think it's interesting.
No, I think you're hitting on such a primal and true fact of self-growth. Where there's what do they say? There's everything changes except for change, or we're always
the only
change.
constant is change.
Yeah.
Or no, everything changes except for change.
Question mark. Change. There's a fairly well-known notion that we're always changing. Everything is changing. Nothing is the same as what it was in the last breath.
Yeah, I think that's a profound truth as well. I think you're either ascending or descending at any given moment.
Can we just sit there? Can we just say, too much that's too much. Anything more is too much, and I really don't want to go down. Like, let me just sit here on the precipice and look where I'm at. Mm-hmm. But still, after that, you're either going down or you're continuing on. And I don't necessarily think you're going up or down, but you're continuing. You're continuing on. And I think we can't help but continue.
Life finds a way.
Life finds a way, yes. Nature finds a way. And I really look to nature a lot, and the perfection in nature. And nature will show you, in so many cases, and most likely every case, a deeper wisdom to relate back into yourself.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Just to introspect, like I was saying before, to relate to yourself. I think that's what it is. But it is kind of in the abstract sense a question of like, what are you gonna do? Each like situation is a question of, hey, what are you going to do in this moment? On a podcast, it's just like something that, it's a question that presents itself. And when I took like shop class or tech class or whatever, it was so fun being like a DJ and talking. Like, I remember that, just like hearing yourself and I remember doing that, and my teacher was like, man, I've never seen Ben like this. He's just I need to pull him away from this microphone. Like, I was a shy kid, so.
But when they put you in front of that mic, a new aspect or a more full or blossoming part of yourself was able to come out. Is that true?
Yeah, I was able to hear myself as if, as if not from a different perspective. You could relate it to, say, a person is good at playing an instrument, they're able to hear themselves through that piano, or like, but this is a completely different way. It's like you can, it's always interesting, especially if you're a teenager, to look at yourself in a different way.
And especially as a teenager, that changing self, that very physical and mental, emotional change and evolution of who am I? How does this feel? What is this? What is that? What? Yeah, so much change, so much news, so much growth.
And it's,
I'm thinking of, I have a 3-year-old daughter, almost 3. And to see her developing mind, to see her looking and processing and taking in the world, and taking in not just the world, but the behavior and the emotions. It's like, okay, these are the ones we're going to feel. These are the ones I should try out. I almost feel some of the best podcasts and the best things that I keep with me are those positive, like, people out there really doing it. They're doing it and representing that in some way, and it's somehow affirming their success and that gold in them going there and achieving and going there, and that's what's repeated in my head throughout that day. That's what I remember. That's what's reaffirmed. Those positive pieces that are going to lead me to my higher self, my blossoming growth of who I can and want to be.
You mentioned podcasts. What are some of your faves? You asked me, and I think I asked you, but you never really got back.
Yeah, I've noticed in my life, a lot of the things I do or want to do, I don't really research or take part in. It's like being a really good football player and never watching the NFL. Just being really good at football and loving to play football, so you play football. And I think there's almost like this purist concept in my head where...
If there's an itch, though,
there's
scratch it.
There's this purist aspect in me where I don't want it to be my expression to be tainted or affected by someone else's flavor or spice. Like, I want to be my own spice. And instead of, like, I love a good blend, herbs de Provence for days. Give me that whole combination of all those spices and all those herbs in my eggs and on my salads and on my meats and on my things, and on my, like, put it on it. And each of those herbs are like those different influences. It's like you can use just like, what are some good names? Michael Singer and there's a Joe and there's the names. There's all the different names of these incredible people really shining in their truth and offering this wonderful message and this channel for these pieces to come through, this inspiration and motivation for the masses to wake up, to access who they are, to access those pieces they want to be.
I think a lot of it's stuff that's interesting that they talk about, and it's like self-improvement. Like Tim Ferriss is all about like productivity, and it's kind of a podcast about wisdom, evergreen knowledge.
And I'd say there's nourishment in each of those podcasts. There's something for you in each of those, and they add like add to the palette, or like it's a new color on your palette to use in your paintings. You know, it's these new tools to cross-reference and draw from to get you to that next point. It's like, okay, they did that. Okay, we already did that, covered, and then, you know, it's like you can pick it up and get with them at that vibration, because that's what they're given. Go to that place, and then you're still that piece of all the other aspects of contributing factors that maybe they never heard of. So now you can take what they're doing and you can add it with all the other influences and knowledge and experiences of others to then have your perspective and your offering.
Yeah, it's just, if you copy too much, I think it's a bad thing, because you want to have your own unique voice. And I find myself, if I listen to some podcasts, that I'm just like repeating a lot of their phrases or tonality sometimes. Not exact phrases, but maybe a word. And you don't want that. You want to avoid that for sure.
Or do you? Like,
interesting. Yeah, that's complex.
I mean, with every question,
Yeah.
I have a that's the choose your own adventure. You know, at least considering both sides.
So maybe you have to discover your own voice, you have to go through the path of exploring different other voices. Then you could get caught in a vortex where you're just lost in just other people's voices, and you're like, where? I'm kind of lost. Like, what do I really feel? Instead of somebody else's voice could be effective if you borrow somebody that's obscure. People don't really know you're doing that person. So you really have to search for your own. It's what you really feel instead of just what plays well. And man, it's like, how much soul do you have?
What was it, Molly O'Shannon? Good old Will Ferrell and Molly O'Shannon, where she got her own movie, and you know, she's the one that's sticking her hands in the armpits and smelling them. The deep breaths, breathing that in. But that's an example of a person that lived their waking life referencing movie quotes and songs, and worked other people's expressions into her own.
Oh, yeah.
And so in a way, it was like
Bing. No, ChatGPT.
insert here, insert this here.
Training data. So it's like all training data for her, and no real thoughts of her own.
Gives an outlet to express a certain message, or there's been ways like certain messages or expressions have been voiced through cinema. If you have a feeling, okay, here it is. You can match it up on the brain waves of what you're feeling and going through. If you don't have the words to express it for yourself, you can access in a similar way from a cinematic archive of all the theater, all the cinema, all the relationships of connecting with each other, that interpersonal, blah, 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 the dialogue, all the pieces. That has a connected, like, you can connect it. You can connect your present thought and brain wave and feeling to a past one of similar and same brainwave and feeling. We can connect those, and much like
Molly Shannon,
wheelchair, voice box, super smart physicist.
Stephen Hawking?
Thank you. Much like Stephen Hawking has technology to voice his message and his ideas, he has an interface to communicate Otherwise, he'd be going, You don't know what that is. What's that? I am very happy to be here with you today. Thank you for having me on your podcast. This has been very enjoyable.
Do you know how he communicated? Through eye movement. It's kind of wild.
Oh, I love it. The intricate eye movement of picking the different letters and then the word. I mean, that was like the first predictive texting.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, because it would create like this word bank and these like common phrases, and then he could just turn his eye to that phrase versus spelling out by letter or word by word. It was boom, that's my phrase. Boom, this is what I want to say.
And then Apple just copied that. Android. They're like, that sounds good. Good to me. Or they developed that. But yeah, so you were on something more profound than that, I think. Stephen Hawking is using that to express that medium that he otherwise wouldn't have.
Now, if Stephen Hawking is really angry, he can vocalize himself as Robert De Niro. What are you talking? You come like that would come out. Or he can project his own avatar with the same likeness of that performance in whatever.
Yeah.
Right? So now in real life, I can be in a conversation with you and you match up with, whatever you're feeling and you want to go to, and match it up with another performance. And now I am viewing Robert De Niro in front of me expressing and saying what you're saying.
Right. You could just have VR glasses on, and then the cameras on those VR glasses could capture my body.
In time.
My body, and then it's just replayed on your set.
Through just another filter.
As somebody else. Maybe it's possible that we won't even have AR. It's possible that like we could always have just like VR on with cameras on, and then that'll just replay what reality may be. Just have, instead of glasses, we'll just have complete blackness and just have HD or 4K, whatever, replayed onto our VR headset, and that we could have like, so our sensory abilities would be limited by the technology of the camera, the technology which can be crazy. I mean, we have X-ray vision, we have multispectral cameras, we have
the processing ability to render that reality in front of you, the access to the information and overlay and the processing to render it as that reality. It wouldn't take as much to make things look like Minecraft around you, but if you want to make it look like real life, like straight up real flesh, and that lighting and that degree of rendering would be a lot more, not infinitely more, but I mean consequentially, and that.
Why are we limiting what's possible now?
See, and
this
that's
is just a conversation.
Because of the advancement in technology, you just have to assume at some point that will be possible, and we do have the energy and we do have the processing speed to run whatever you want.
When your daughter is as old as we are. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that will at least be available. A lot of people are saying AGI is gonna happen by 2030. Yeah, artificial general intelligence.
General intelligence. Talk on that. What's this? What's AGI?
AGI. Well, a lot of people define it as like an intelligence that is smarter than anyone alive, and that has an ability to improve itself autonomously.
To
so
what end?
It can learn everything a human can and more, and it can improve itself autonomously. That's AGI. And then we'll have that.
That sounds more like Skynet. That's Skynet. Terminator.
Oh.
That's Terminator Skynet.
I'm not super familiar with it. Skynet.
You're not well, I mean, it's the super AI computer that then took over control of the military in what is her name? Stewart, this wonderful black woman who is the author of both Terminator series and The Matrix. The same author.
Wachowski brothers.
Were the director.
Wachowski brothers directed. Oh,
But who wrote the initial story?
I thought they wrote it, but.
And maybe, I mean, I consider any news and information I receive possibly fake news, and it's not real. But I mean, and that's where we're at. It's so terrible. I'm looking around even a grocery store. I'm like, look at all these liars. They're just lying to me. It's all poison. What is all this?
Google's fake news. No.
Search engines.
It's at least.
That's just like, the payment of profit, paying to profit. I mean, that's marketing, isn't it? Is it just? And it's back to marketing and capitalism and doing everything for the sale and profit.
What? Yeah, they've modeled your personality. They model you in a different way. They look at like what you want, and then this, what we're working on here with the modeling of the human personality. I was going to talk about one more thing that I didn't talk about.
Yeah, let's get it in here.
It's modeling someone's entire personality that not only can match them with compatible people, it not only can sell them things, but it can like educate them. And this is how people will spin it. It can educate them in a more effective way upon what they want to learn. But what do we really need to be educated for anyway? If we have AGI coming within a decade?
Well, I mean, before, people's profit came from their physical labors and time. We groomed and nurtured generations through the DOE and the educational process through the Industrial Revolution and factories to create good workers to turn better profits. So our education before was to create good workers, efficient and good workers, compliant workers. So now, if we have AI and robots and auto mechanical and sustainable labor that isn't required from humans, then why do we need humans, and what is humans' place for the masses?
I think we talked about this question in our other conversation, not to refer.
Can.
But yeah, what is our experience? What is our experience without purpose?
Or for whose purpose? And I think that's maybe the key. Before, it was looking at society for the use and for the ends for their profit and purpose. Can we please give the power back to the people and figure out what each person's power and purpose is in, and empower them to live that life and to contribute to the greater society for what they can bring that no other can? And that is a stronger society. That is a happier society. This is a better and thriving society.
Yeah. Is there going to be someone who says this is what society, this is what we should be doing, and someone to take control? I think that's the purpose of this podcast.
Well, I mean, that already happened. That happened 100 years ago.
Centralized.
1900s, as the turn of the century then came about, there were individuals and groups that came together and said, look, this is what we want society to look like, because it's going to provide the great wealth and legacy of all of our families and dynasty and class. And they did it. Now what do we do? Now do we continue under that rule and model?
That's a bold thing to do.
Bold.
I know.
On a global level, bold. And they did it. I mean, we're sitting here
it's 'cause
more
nobody
than
else
100 years later, and we're looking at it, and it's like, oh, wow, they did it.
Yeah, it's because nobody else stepped up and did it. nobody else was trying to do it.
Nobody else was
crazy enough.
Nobody else was in the position to do it? Question mark?
You not only have to be in a position to do it, but you have to be kind of crazy enough to do it.
And where does that come from? A need, a passion, some kind of a belief.
There you go. Yeah.
Yep.
Ideal, even. Ideal.
And where did those come from in each of those men? Was it coming from a family legacy? Was it coming from, our family does this and our family is, comes from this and this and this, and you have a responsibility to carry on. Da 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 da.
It was like the church. Are we talking about manifest destiny?
Yeah, and the belief, coming from church and it coming from their own communities and what they were exposed to. But yeah, what was it that empowered them to do what they did? To change a global society, or at least a nation's society, America's nation, USA, 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 these United States of America.
I think you'd write several couple volumes of books on that. What was it? Because I think it's the geographic location of the U.S., but technology played a huge part as well. So the technology on a practical level can get you so many places, but you also have to have the fortitude mentally to be like, I am right. I am right. This is what everyone should do. Like, it's crazy that we went into Vietnam and it's like, oh yeah, we're just gonna stop the spreading of communism. And yeah, it's wild.
Oh, it's definitely wild, the understatement of going into, a whole
the hubris, Ben. The hubris involved. It's crazy. I wish I had that much hubris sometimes.
If you had that much hubris, what would you do?
Maybe I will have that much hubris if I had that much power and money. I think that grows. It's like they say, power corrupts. Absolute power corrupts.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, you
or
agree.
Complete,
so you agree?
Complete power corrupts completely. No, I think it is absolute power corrupts.
Power corrupts.
Absolute power.
No, this is it. Power corrupts, period. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. I think that's it.
It's in there. Let us know. You write in the comments, please, below what that is. Help us out.
This is
Is Susie in Arkansas still around? Susie, come in. Call your cousin Betsy.
But so what do we got going on? I think every podcast in terms of the ingredients involved. Back to that.
Mm-hmm.
You'd like a Jamie, or a Googler.
Oh, right.
There's a person called Jamie Rogan.
Do you think it also has to be another Ben, since this is a Ben and Ben podcasting production? Ben and Ben Productions?
I mean, I guess I'm redundant because you're already... No.
You're already Ben.
You already have a Ben. We already have one Ben, so...
I mean, I think it should just be all Bens. Just a tribe of Benjamins.
Yeah.
Just Bens.
I'm down with that.
Right?
If anybody else... Yeah, call in if you're a Ben, or if you want to apply to collaborate with us.
In a podcasting / technical collaboration.
You have to prove what your name is, or change your name.
To Ben. To officially be in the tribe of Benjamin. Collaboration, collective, co-op.
Been there.
Been that.
How you been? So how you
been? Great. How you been, Ben?
Yeah, it's been all right. Up and down roller coaster. But it's a good Monday.
Ooh, yes.
Tuesday.
Wednesday. Thursday. Happy days.
So how many kids do you have? You just have the 1 3-year-old?
3. I have
yeah,
three.
Yeah.
I have 3 kids. I have a 8, 6, and 2-year-old. And there's always a possibility of a 4th.
That's okay.
I mean, nature has a way of either saying yes or no, and even when it's a yes, it might actually be a no.
Are you-
how many
Yeah, there you go.
couples out there have gotten pregnant and lost that baby? And how soon after you knew you were pregnant, you losing that baby? I know this is.
We need a Googler for this one, because I don't know. I'm stumped on that. But.
This might be a survey for the masses on that one. But yes, let us know, because I know it's a big issue. Parents, lovely couples, newly couples, old couples, all couples. Couples, they come together. There's something to create. There's something to do. There's something to give beyond yourself. And I think a lot of times that's children. And there's a big desire in so many women to fulfill that natural
Role.
potential possibility role of mother, connection with being a mother and what that is and how divine and special that is. And so the journey of becoming a mother and becoming a father. And next time on Ben and Ben Podcast Productions, we'll talk about what it is to be a father.
Sounds good to me.
Now, Ben, are you a father?
I'm not a father, no.
No. One of these Bens is a father. I'm being the father for the Bens here right now. and thus, you have another perspective to give and gain in this conversation.
But it's a profound thing to introduce a life into this world. What do you think? You mentioned the mother's role. Now fathers also have a role. What does that involve?
That is a beautiful and great question. One that I figure out more and more every day. And especially it's not a concrete answer these days, for you're finding a lot of house husbands. You're finding a lot of women and the wives and the mothers that have the career, that have the education, they have the experience, and they have sometimes better jobs and better paying jobs than the husband, and it makes more sense for the father to stay home with the kids while the wife and mother is out at work. And what that dynamic does to the family, with the family, for the family, and a deeper look on this next week.
Sounds like somebody has to go soon, but
it's amazing.
Or
the
you're just
different-
trying to change the subject here. Or,
I'm not sure. Maybe just creating taglines.
but yeah, it's. What role do you feel like you have at this point? Are you the breadwinner, as you referred to it, or it's a new generation. My brother, he is not the breadwinner, No, he's not the primary breadwinner. And he wasn't for a bit. He had to play dad at home. What do you call it? I don't know. What do you call a dad that's at home? Mr. Mom. You had to play Mr. Mom.
Because
Maybe
for a long time, housewife is the common term for the job and career of for a long time, the wife who was in the house taking care of the house and the children, and so that was the housewife.
Yeah.
And so, do we have a house husband, or is it just dad at home?
Yeah.
Without a title and purpose, without a clear way of really stepping forward and contribution.
Man, in a lot of ways, this could be flagged by somebody, but I think a lot of ways a core identity of a man is that contribution, is that purpose of contributing to the resources of the family.
Yes.
In a lot of ways, a lot of purpose of a woman is the nurturing bit. And switching those or making, I think a lot of women, when they have a kid and they provide for that kid, they are kind of accounting for both of those roles.
And so what
And the
place
men's
does
role,
that husband
A little bit lost.
and father have in that world? And I've had a great time diving into that, and I think I can go into that maybe next week, because I indeed do. We're wrapping up here in the next 5 minutes. So I wanted to maybe a slight recap.
Well, you know, that's one of the ingredients of a podcast too. Is like the hook. So,
So
the
creating
hook for next time.
right? I think for that recap, I want to hear from our listeners out there of what they want to hear more on and what really piqued their interest, and let us know on those deeper places to dive into. Let's go.
Let's go. We're gonna have ChatGPT do a recap as well.
Because we're having fun. This is incredibly fun.
In the voice of Robert De Niro.
All right. Thank you so much. Mahalo nui loa. And we'll see you next time.